guess we need to approve the minutes for the May 4th meeting.
I read those.
You want to make a motion to
Motion to approve those.
All right, I need a second on that.
I'll second.
Any discussion at all?
I think so.
Guess not. So we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. I'll wait for Dennis for a second.
I'll wait for you.
That's right.
Sorry about that.
No problem at all. You timed it perfectly, actually.
You want to hand this down to him?
Sure.
There you go. I can.
I have it on my computer, but we'll do it this way.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's fine.
So we'll move on. That was approved, right? So
Okay.
number 2 in new business is certificate of appropriateness in the West End Historic District, application by Michelle Rademacher of Clever Fox Architecture on behalf of
Greg?
Dan Rader.
I'm sorry, this is Lisa. I'm requesting to abstain from this one as Celtic has completed work on this project, just
Okay,
for the minutes.
not a problem. For a parklet, be located on the public right of way in front of the Osmer Building at 816 Main.
Okay, so in the packets, was the application, and some architectural drawings and some, pictures of what the parklet will look like. So a parklet is a raised kind of deck structure that will sit in the public right of way, so it'll sit like where parking spaces are in the street. So they're proposing to do, a parklet in front of 816. It will, there is a concrete planter there currently that will be removed, and so it'll go in that space and in a parking space.
What's up there?
It'll have a roof structure, as you can see, and then kind of like a little fence
My
thing.
question was, how much in the parking area is that going to be? Is that going to stick out?
It'll be like, so it kind of just takes up a parallel parking space. So it doesn't stick out into the road.
Okay.
It just takes up that parallel
So you
parking
can like, okay,
space.
that's the question that's on that.
And I believe.
It said in there, yeah, but I'm not.
Is this the parklet?
This is the parklet.
Parklet.
So, I'm just looking at the, I thought there was sizes, there it is.
I didn't know how long a regular parking spot was.
So a standard, parking space is 9 feet by 18 and a half feet. The parklet is 12 and a half feet by 30. So it shows
So
right
it's
here.
about 15 feet we're in a, just some parking.
Yes, so it'll eat into the parallel parking that's right there.
Is there parallel parking there, or is it the sideways slanty parking there?
Is it slanted? It's diagonal parking.
Yes, so probably 2 spaces.
Phil, do you know how many?
One compact space and one regular space.
Okay, so that's, so 2 spaces, okay. Yeah, because you can see on the, she has it kind of called out, the diagonal space there, and then the diagonal space there.
So is this going to be on the sidewalk too and out there? Or is
No.
this, okay.
So the parklet is just in
The parking spot.
the parking spot, and it'll be in like where the
Where the planter used to be.
planter used to
Okay,
be.
yeah, good. All right.
And you
There's
can
a
see
big
from the
old tree
plan,
there
there's a
growing up.
proposed new planter that'll be smaller, right? So not losing the
Planners are-
plants. It'll just be smaller, and it'll be it won't be into the street portion, it'll be kind of on the sidewalk. And then you can see sidewalk here, see a little fence thing. It would be 28 outdoor seats. Trash receptacle is where kind of the entrance to the parklet is. You can see it's kind of in a dashed line. That's where that planter is currently. That'll be removed. And then visuals of what the proposed parklet will look like. So roof structure, has some kind of like bollard things. And parklets are designed to be removable, so it's not a permanent structure. It's something that can be like disassembled, correct? And both the Maters and Michelle Rademacher are here if the commission has questions.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Dennis?
have we had any comments from neighbors on this one? This is one of those extremely exciting projects for downtown, and it's one of those that in the past we got so much pushback from the parking issue.
So I did not receive any comments from the mailing and the notice that went out to property owners within the 330 feet of the subject property. I know that city council is going through the process of changing the city code to allow for this. I don't know if there's been, so that'll be at the work session on Monday the 5th, and they will take public comments.
What if they didn't, excuse me, what if they didn't redo the planter, then they wouldn't lose the parking spot? Do we have to put the planter back in there?
So the planner is not in, the proposed new planner is not in the street, it'll be on the site.
Okay.
That's a part of the whole BDO plan.
Yeah, it's trying to remove some of those.
Planter, yeah,
Could we ask a question of Michelle and Dan and Cindy?
Absolutely.
Have you had any discussion with neighbors on that one?
Yeah, the neighbor that's most impacted is right next to us to the west, Coleman, Liz Coleman.
Sure.
And I went and showed her what we were doing and talked to her about it, and she was real excited about it. I said, you know, the parklets will mostly only be erected for establishments that are serving food or drink, right? If you're trying on a dress, you don't need a parklet to go out and. So I said, you know, it doesn't benefit you per se, but if people are gonna sit there and drink a cup of coffee and then they look across and go, oh, by the way, have you been in that store? She goes, oh, absolutely. She goes, the more people sit in front of my store, the better. It's not in front of her store, of course, it's just in front of our building, but she's real positive.
It's just a parking issue downtown as much as anything.
Yeah, and we're lucky in our case because the planter is the bulk of it, and we just got one short one and a corner of the next one that's impacted. So we're not having hardly any impact on parking overall in this case, you know.
Exciting. It's one that we hoped for.
I'd love to see the downtown, you know, I just see our beautiful little downtown being able to be one of those destinations, like, you know, like, not like River Park Square, of course, but you know how they kind of have a couple of the, you know, a couple of the streets are kind of naturally blocked and it's made for a walking path and it's a draw to have people downtown. I'm actually thinking that this is a good start to all things.
So Katie, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, Katie, you said that the city has to do their ordinance. Do we have to do anything we do today contingent upon their code approval?
Yeah, so it would just be, your approval would be contingent on council's approval, of course. That is going in front of council on Monday at their work session.
We don't want to hold it up.
Exactly, well, and that's why we wanted to have it in front of this group now, knowing that council is working on doing the public hearing and the ordinance readings in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yep, I figure you guys will go through the
Let's go, yeah.
review sheet like normal.
Right.
And specifically,
Read them all, or-
While you're looking,
so section L, which is parking facilities, lighting signs, streetscapes, I believe that one is going to apply to this particular project. And We might also look at the items covered in section M for new construction. I don't know if those items will apply, but I think it would be appropriate for the commission to review those items. But specifically L, I think applies to this, project. So it's not,
And Lisa's recusing herself because of connections with the engineering firm?
yes, because Celtic has done, the work on the project, so she does have a financial stake, in the project, so, she will abstain.
So are we cool to skip to L? I don't have to read all this, or do I?
I think you can skip to L.
I believe we can skip to L because all of the other ones
So
apply
I'll
to an
just read,
actual
I'll just
building.
read the L one.
Okay.
All right, L on this page is design guidelines for parking facilities, lighting, signs, and streetscapes. Since the goal of rehabilitation is to provide new uses for historic buildings, and the setting must be conducive to the selected use.
Conducive, yeah. You might want to try conducive there.
Conducive? What did I say, conductive? Yeah, well, it's morning for me. Conducive to
It's the English teacher
selected
in him,
use.
yeah.
Parking facilities, lighting, signage, and generally pleasant streetscapes are the utmost importance in encouraging people to visit shops and other commercial venues in the historic district. So let's go to number one. Off-street parking located behind party wall buildings or shielded from main streets or walkways by vegetation or compatible walls.
But this is not off-street parking, because
Right,
it's
stay on L.
street parking, so.
Not applicable.
Number two, locating off-street parking lots in areas with no historical buildings. That doesn't apply either. Number three, use of simple low-intensity lighting fixtures casting warm light similar to daylight, focused on building entrances, signs, and first floor detailing. Historic lighting fixtures should be preserved if possible. Modern fixtures should be compatible with the historic building and surroundings in terms of size, scale, and color. No. Number four. Consistent street lighting fixtures throughout the historic district made by a means of unifying the area. Although the fixtures do not need to imitate historical types, dark colors reminiscent of cast iron may be appropriate for earlier historic districts, while silver color reminiscent of aluminum may be appropriate for mid-20th century districts. That one's long.
Color.
Yeah. 5, use of signs that are compatible with and do not overwhelm the architecture of the building and district. Avoid plastic signs if possible. Consistent size and placement of signage contributes to unification of the downtown area. No. Number 6, historic building names or historic signs should be retained if possible as part of the historic building. Flip over to the next part here. Number 7, preservation of historic painted advertisements on exterior building walls. Carefully repainting of faded images may be acceptable. 8, service structures such as garbage utilities and storage placed where not visible from main streets or walkways. Screening with vegetations or compatible walls or structures is generally appropriate.
That's for like
That's more like.
it's shielded, if you have a dumpster or something and you're
Yeah.
building a structure around the dumpster to hide the dumpster.
Dumpsters in the back.
Number 9, power and telephone poles should be compatible in terms of size and color with nearby historic buildings. Although the poles do not need to imitate historical types, wood poles or poles painted to resemble wood may be appropriate for earlier historic districts, while a silver color reminiscent of aluminum may be appropriate for mid-20th century districts. 10, maintenance of pleasant streetscapes, perhaps with trees or planters, sidewalks, and simple compatible street furniture, retain a clearly defined pedestrian travel route.
So I believe that this one is going to.
This one
Yes.
does apply, yeah. And I would say, it looks like it. Yes.
Looks like a yes.
Yes on that one?
Yes on that one. 11, historical features such as original street furniture, statues, walls, sidewalk inscriptions, stone curbs, and power poles contribute to the historic character of the district as a whole and should be retained if possible.
Don't think that would apply because this is not original street.
Yeah, that was not a original structure at all.
And what was the other letter you'd said?
Oh, you have like three more.
Oh, there's 3 more, geez.
Yeah, on the back.
13 and 14 probably go through, but
I think 13 and 14.
you have to read 12.
Here's 12. Until about the 1920s, most commercial district buildings were constructed as party wall structures with the main facades aligned along the street. Alteration of this familiar pattern through removal of a historic building or setback of a replacement structure creates mild confusion, making the area less predictable and hence less comfortable for a visitor. Installation of walls, sculptures, or vegetation may adequately substitute for an altered street wall, building facade line. NA? No. 13. Presence of pleasant public spaces encourages visitors to spend time in downtown areas.
That's a yes,
That's
right?
a yes. Excuse me. Number 14, we all agreed, that's a yes, right? Number 14, where it exists, historic brick street surfacing should be retained if possible. There isn't any brick street
That's a
there.
yes, sir. Does it,
I
where it exists?
I
it's
think
where
there
it
is some,
No, no, there's
I
no-
think that is the one of the only streets across that street, there is original, but I don't think it's gonna be affected, but there is original brick between, there,
The
that
sidewalk,
new
yeah.
6th Street, yeah. The sidewalk that going,
But I don't think it's close.
no,
enough-
it's not
close
gonna be
enough.
affected at all by this, though. But there is original brick.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve a certificate of appropriateness for the Osmer's building at 816 Main contingent upon the code changes by the city.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the certificate of appropriateness. Do I have to say it all or just for in front of the Osmer building?
I would say that's specifically for the parklet.
For a parklet in front of the Osmer's building at 816 Main Street. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
One abstention.
We just have one abstention on that. So that one's done. Approved.
Okay.
Nice.
So then our next one, is also for the same building, but this is for a sign. We had previously looked at a sign, for 816 for bumper crop, but it was going to be a projecting sign. And so instead of the projecting sign, they're proposing just a wall sign. So a picture of the wall sign is included in the packet. And then the piece of code for signs in historic districts. The sign does meet the wall sign code for sign in historic districts, and it meets the square footage.
And where is it hanging?
Hmm?
Is it hanging, like, right above the door?
Yes.
Okay.
So we just read through all of the packet there, and there was only one area that
There's only one area that applies to signage, yes. It's in that same
It's an
L
L.
section.
Yeah.
So I would say again, you can probably just read the L section because that's the only one that applies to signage.
Neat. All right. Back to the start of it. Want me to read the header for that?
Yes,
too?
please.
Okay. Section L, design guidelines for parking facilities, lighting, signs, and streetscapes. Since the goal of rehabilitation is to provide new uses for historic buildings, and the setting must be conducive to the selected use.
You can conduct it if you want to.
Parking facilities, lighting, signage, and generally pleasant streetscapes are of the utmost importance in encouraging people to visit shops and other commercial venues in the historic district. So, number one, off-street parking located behind party wall buildings or shielded from main streets or walkways by vegetation or compatible walls. NA. Number two, locating off-street parking lots in areas with no historical buildings.
Not applicable.
Number three, use of simple, low-intensity lighting fixtures casting a warm light similar to daylight, focused on building entrances, signs, and first-floor detailing. Historical lighting fixtures should be preserved if possible. Modern fixtures should be compatible with the historic building and surrounding in terms of size, scale, and color.
Yes.
Number four, consistent street lighting fixtures throughout the historic district made by a means of unifying the area. Did I read that right? Be a means of unifying the area. Geez, sorry guys.
Okay.
Although the fixtures do not need to imitate historical types, dark colors reminiscent of cast iron may be appropriate for earlier historic districts, while silver color reminiscent of aluminum may be appropriate for mid-20th century districts. NA. 5. Use of signs that are compatible with and do not overwhelm the architecture of the building and district. Avoid plastic signs if possible. Consistent size and placement of signage contributes to unification in the downtown area. That's a yes, right? 6, historic building names or historic signs should be retained if possible as part of the historic building. That's an Number 7, preservation of historic painted advertisements on exterior building walls. Careful repainting of faded images may be acceptable. NA. 8, service structures such as garbage utilities and storage placed where not visible from main streets or walkways. Yep. Didn't even finish it. Screening with vegetations or compatible walls or structures is generally appropriate.
It's easy to get impatient with these things.
Tell me about it.
That's a lot of words.
9, power and telephone poles should be compatible in terms of size and color with nearby historic buildings. Although the poles do not need to imitate historical types, wood poles or poles painted to resemble wood may be appropriate for earlier historic districts, while a silver color reminiscent of aluminum may be appropriate for mid-20th century districts. 10, maintenance of pleasant streetscapes, perhaps with trees or planters, sidewalks, and simple compatible street furniture. Retain a clearly defined pedestrian travel route.
NA.
Yep.
Would be my guess.
11, historical features such as original street furniture, statues, walls, sidewalk inscriptions, stone curbs, and power poles contribute to the historic character of the district as a whole and should be retained if possible. Winding down. Now the book we call number 12. Until the 1920s, most commercial district buildings were constructed as party wall structures with the main facades aligned along the street. Alteration of this familiar pattern through removal of historic building or setback of a replacement structure creates mild confusion, making the area less predictable and hence less comfortable for a visitor. Installation of walls, sculptures, or vegetation may adequately substitute for an altered street wall, building facade line in a 13. Presence of pleasant public spaces encourages visitors to spend time in downtown areas.
I think the sign is not necessarily
Gonna not say what a pleasant sign you have.
I mean, it seems not applicable.
It makes me wanna come downtown because of your sign.
Here's your sign.
That's an NA. Okay. Number 14. Where it exists, historic brick street surfacing should be retained if possible. That's another NA.
Yeah. So we only had one yes in that whole thing.
Yeah.
That's all we need.
They're only one thing for the signs.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the certificate of appropriateness for an interior illuminated wall sign at 816 Main Street.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to okay the sign, the interior illuminated sign at 816 Main Street. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Voted. Done.
Mr. Chair, is it appropriate to say thank you to the Maters? The investment in
Why not?
downtown, we appreciate it. I know that as neighbors, the Liberty across the way, we will try to become even more attractive, so it will be better for you. But we're grateful for that.
Now, give me people to watch when I'm across the street. Okay. All right, perfect. I like that too.
Yeah,
Okay. Let's go on to number 4.
All right, moving on to number 4, which is a certificate of appropriateness in the
Yeah.
in the normal
Very much.
Hill Heritage Overlay Zone. An application by Thomas Brainerd on behalf of Craig Emerson at 222 Prospect Boulevard. Demolition of an existing accessory garage and replacement with a larger accessory structure.
Okie dokie, so in your packet, there is lots of information. So there are some architectural plans showing what the new garage will look like. It is designed to kind of match the house, so there's pictures of the current house, both front and back.
See the front again? Oh, that's the Blaine house.
it's an exciting house. It's
It
an
is.
exciting project.
Yeah, so they'll be replacing a smaller structure in the back that's kind of dilapidated. And so there's photos of what the new structure will look like. And then kind of a description of the different items that will be used. So shingles will be the same as what's on the existing house. Paint color will be similar. It's a pearl gray color. Let's see, garage has been designed with box bay windows reflecting those on the exterior of the residence. So, you know, again, similar.
Okay.
Including an inverted pyramid-shaped trim underneath. Painted surfaces will be color matched to the colors of the house. And then you can kind of see there's some photos regarding the shingles and the different windows that will be installed.
That's the siding, right?
Yeah, so this is the siding,
And then and the roof is,
and the roof is kind of a weird like diamond
is
shingle.
it asphalt shingles? What?
Yeah, yes, sir, it is.
Okay,
They are,
okay.
the Emersons replaced the roof a little while ago.
Okay.
And they actually overbought, so, because they were planning on doing this, so they actually believe they have enough shingles left over. So they're exactly what's
sweet.
used on the house.
Okay. Everything will
There you go.
match.
So we're
Yeah.
dealing with new construction here,
Yes.
the letter M.
But remember, this is heritage, so, different review sheet,
Review.
faster review sheet. Not as many items.
Well, I'm assuming since the Emersons are very familiar with this group, they
Oh, yeah.
did.
Well, and that's such a beautiful home. Congratulations.
It's really cool.
I went through there a little bit a while back when they had their sale, and yeah, it was awesome. Great stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They leave any of that for you?
They took what they wanted out of the garage, and they just said, everything else goes. So I'm trying to work my way through.
Gotcha. Because there is a lot of stuff.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move on.
What do you need me to read?
So So we're gonna go through, the factors. So
Okay.
the factors are on the back page. The back page.
So let's start
And then
with
we're
the
gonna decide
factors.
if they
Huh?
comply with the factors.
Yes. Okay, in considering applications for certificates of appropriateness, the Historic Preservation Commission shall use the Secretary of Interior's standards for rehabilitation. I'm not gonna read that number.
No, you don't have to read that number.
Okay, as a guideline. So, let's go, number one. The historic character of the property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alterations of features and spaces that characterize a property should be avoided.
Applies, doesn't it?
I think so.
It does apply. But it's using the same siding, the same windows, and the
Yeah,
same
well,
roof
or they're
material.
retaining it,
Yeah.
so, you know. So, number two, which by the way, we have to what? Have to have factors 1, 4, and 6 for it to be covered
Yes.
right off the bat. Number
Well,
two,
Just go through all of them, because it
Yeah, I'm
says
good.
if it
No, no.
automatically does 1, 4, and 6, it shall be considered deserving of CFA. But if it, doesn't meet one of those for whatever reason, then you look at 2, 3, 5, and 7. And if it meets a certain number of those, then,
but we're gonna go through them right down.
but we're gonna go through all of them anyways, so.
Number two, each property shall be recognized as a physical record of its time, place, and use. Changes that create a false sense of historical development, such as adding conjectural features or architectural elements from other buildings, shall not be undertaken. Weird one.
So they're talking more as if you were doing, an alteration to the building itself.
Mm-hmm.
And we're changing some, I mean, this building has very distinctive
Yeah,
features,
or
right?
changing the purpose of the building.
Mm-hmm.
That would cover it too,
Um,
wouldn't it? Like if you,
no, so changes of use are different. This is more like, it's physical record.
okay.
So they're not adding any architectural elements,
No.
they're not changing any of the existing conjectural features. So
That one doesn't.
I don't know
really-
that it applies.
I don't think it does.
So, moving on, number three, most properties change over time. Those changes that have acquired historical significance in their own right shall be retained and preserved.
We're doing that with the house.
Yeah, they're kind of.
Yeah, so they're not changing anything, so I
That's
would say
okay.
that they're
We're safe there.
maintaining.
I'm not sure there would have been a garage there originally, right?
Might have been
Well,
carriage
I
house.
think it's probably original. to the
Probably
house.
A buggy house probably or something like that.
Carriage
Yeah,
house.
and as you look at it, the doors are small enough that it would tell you it's not, wasn't built in the time of Coles.
Right. So I bet you it is a buggy house, yeah.
So really, it might apply, right? Because that changed its purposes over time, but
We'll worry about that, I guess.
we'll worry about it if it,
Yeah.
we don't hit 4,
Number
5, 6.
4, distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property shall be preserved. I think that's a yeah,
Applies.
or a yes, sorry.
That would be a yes, yeah.
Number 5, deteriorated historic features should be repaired rather than replaced, where the severity of the deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature. The new feature shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, materials. Replacement of missing features shall be substantiated by physical or pictorial documentary evidence. Doesn't really apply, does it?
Well, I think it might
Well, I think it
apply.
might, because
Yeah.
it says the
But I'd
severity of
say-
deterioration, so they're replacing.
So they
the
are
carriage house.
replacing
They're
it.
replacing it, yeah.
So that one's okay.
I'd say probably a yes, because they're using the materials.
Yeah, they're making it match the
Yeah,
house.
exactly.
Yes. Number 6, new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property unless such work is for replacement of inefficient or failing materials, fixtures or systems with modernly designed and constructed replacements that duplicate, replicate, or result in substantial conformance with the visual appearance, sorry, or integrity of a historically significant aspect of the building. The new work should be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historical integrity of the property and its environment. I think that's, yeah.
Yes.
We need to go to 7 since we have 1, 4, 6.
Applies, I think.
Yeah, 7 applies because it's
Okay.
new construction.
New additions, number 7, new additions and adjacent or related new constructions shall be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historical property and its environment would be unimpaired. That's another yes. So that being said, we covered ourselves on 1, 4, and 6, right?
Yep, we said 1, 4, and 6 all apply and meet.
Yep, and meet the criteria.
And then 3, 5, and 7, you said apply and meet the criteria, and only number 2 does not apply.
Yep.
With that being said.
That's what I got.
We would, entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the garage on 222 Prospect.
That's good. Can I get a second?
I'll say.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness in the Normal Hill Heritage Overlay Zone for a new garage and, well, replacement of the old garage with a new garage at 222 Prospect Boulevard. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Done.
Super good.
Thank you very much.
Good deal.
Appreciate it.
That'll be cool.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
We get to come tour the house.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful home.
It is. Beautiful, beautiful craftsman.
You know, there's a story. They were walking around outside one day and looked at the house and said, "What beautiful stained glass windows. Why can't we see them from the inside?" Somebody in doing a renovation had just sheetrocked over the entire wall, including the windows. So I got to redo the trim, and you know, they don't make this stuff anymore.
Right.
So working in clear vertical grain Douglas fir, reproducing the trim, putting that up at just a fabulous.
Oh,
Well, at least they didn't
Nice.
just smash the stained glass window
Yeah.
out when they built the wall. That's a plus for sure.
Yeah.
great.
That is wonderful. Love those kind of stories.
Preservation.
Preservation, man.
It is a beautiful house, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Katie, thank you so much.
You're very
Yeah, she's
welcome.
wonderful,
I
isn't
will
she?
email you the letter, and then I'll go and let the permit techs know that it's been approved, and so they should be able to issue you a permit too.
Okay, and I'm working on trying to get the second piece of this going too, so we could, great, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Going to 5.
Go on to number 5.
Number 5, consider the recommendation for removal of Commissioner Husenfeld from the Historic Preservation Commission to the mayor and city council pursuant to Lewiston City Code, section 2-45, absenteeism.
So Peggy has not joined us since December. I spoke with her in January, and at that time she was having some health problems and asked if she could take a break.
I thought it's,
And so I told her that I would just try to keep in touch. I have not gotten any responses to emails or responses to phone calls since January. And the bylaws and the boards and commissions section of code do say that if you've missed more than 3 meetings, that you can be removed. So at this point, I guess my feeling is, you know, we're already short 1 board member. We have had problems getting a quorum a couple of times because we are required to have 5 since there are 8 active members. So I feel it's probably appropriate to suggest her removal from the commission so that we can try to get new commissioners who will actually be able to attend.
Yeah,
That makes
Maybe we should
sense.
send her a letter first, maybe she's just not looking at her email.
So I've left her voicemail.
Voicemails.
Yeah, I've called a couple of times also and not gotten any response since the time I spoke with her in January. So,
Yeah, so you're talking more like 5 times.
yes, so she's missed 5 meetings.
So what do we do now, guess? Do we make a motion?
So you just make a motion and then I send the recommendation. So it's similar to, it's kind of just the opposite of, when we recommend new commissioners to the mayor and council for, appointment. It's the opposite of that. We're asking for unappointment. And so they'll just, at their next, probably they might be able to do it at the June 12th meeting. But so it's just another item that they review at one of their regular meetings. And then I have sent out a letter to all properties within the Normal Hill Heritage Overlay, like I did 2 years ago when we were soliciting for new, that's how I got Lorinda.
Okay.
I think that's how we actually got Peggy also. So I sent about 230 letters out last week. So hopefully we'll get some response, because it was
Effective.
fruitful last time, so, hopefully we get some interested parties
I
again.
move that we recommend removal of Commissioner Husenfeld from the Historic Preservation Commission to the mayor and city council.
A motion, how about a second?
Need to do it, but probably should second.
Okay,
Because we need the people.
we do. So we have a motion and a second to recommend the removal of Commissioner Husenfeld from the Historic Preservation Commission to the mayor and to the city council. Do we have any discussion further?
We haven't sent her a letter or anything that said you could be removed.
Can we
The
call
last
her?
time I called her, that's what I said, I was like, you've missed, because it was after the May meeting that I called again. And I was like, we're probably going to move forward in this manner. You can also just choose to, ask to be removed. That's just a simple, give me a phone call, send me an email, something, and I haven't gotten any response.
I know this won't prevent her from
No, she can
joining
definitely
us
apply
again or
No,
anything
I mean,
like
and
that, or.
She could come
I am
back.
under the impression that maybe she is just at a point in her life where it doesn't work for her, and so,
You know, things happen, people get busy, they have
Exactly.
life
Well, she's
circumstances.
been sick too, I think she
Yeah.
broke her leg,
Yeah.
and that's,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know what her health problem was. She just mentioned that she was having some health problems when I spoke to her in January, but then I have not had any correspondence with her since, so.
so,
I hadn't heard from her since December. It's been difficult with her project. Yeah.
even before.
kind of left, yeah, kind of
At
left lay on her
all
own.
the meetings, once the,
She attended the one
Stuff
in
was
December
assigned.
and then did
yeah,
not
so it's been
attend
more than
anything
5.
after that. Yeah, so she's missed 5 regular meetings and I don't know how many of the subcommittee meetings.
So at least that many plus
We
the
had
project
a lot of those.
work, so.
Okay. Anything else?
No,
Let's
just
vote.
voted.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'm not gonna repeat it again,
No,
because
you
we
don't.
know what we're talking
Yep.
about. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed at all?
Regretfully, I guess.
Okay, I guess we,
That's a weak eye.
A week,
I mean, it's not a fun thing to have to do,
No,
but
not.
unfortunately, I'm not getting any response.
so we
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
send
we
that
have to do that.
recommendation then to the mayor of the
Yep.
city council, is that correct?
Yep, I'll just
That we
ask the
voted
clerk to add it to an agenda.
on? Okay, then we can move on to old business.
Old business. So submitted all of our paperwork to the Idaho State Historical Society for our grant, and so that has been processed, and they will be doing their reimbursement to us. I have 15 of the plaques installed so far. I have a couple more appointments next week. I'm hoping to have, if not all of them, almost all of them put up by the 12th. When Gary does his talk at the library, and I will have maps available there so that people can walk around and access the information. So that's been going well. I have almost all of the web pages live. I've been trying to like make them live as I put up the plaque. And yeah, so that's been chugging along.
Sweet. It was great. We got free advertising from the library in their
Yep, and they've been-
magazine, two places I saw it, which is nice.
Yep, they've pushed out some information, and yeah, that's all on that.
And when you get all the plaques up, let me know, and Hannah and I will go
Yes.
down and get photos of
Take
everyone.
pictures and, that's awesome.
Did Gary Bush?
It's cool to see this project go
Yes.
through.
He did, okay, he said when I was in Spokane for Barbara's.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, so he got a hold of me, and I talked to, Lynn at the library about how much time I provided him with that information.
Thank you for doing that, I appreciate that.
So yeah, so I think that's all I have for old business.
Um,
And then I told you guys, so I sent out the letters, trying to solicit new members,
So we need two?
we'll need 2, yes.
And then, I guess, old business, I had reached out to a couple cities to find out what they had done, like, for incentives for, and I haven't heard anything
yeah.
back, so I'm gonna just try to get into a couple other cities and see what we can do. When is that, when are they gonna make a decision on that? Do you know, is that just kinda in limbo?
It's in limbo, yeah, so, I mean, we need to have.
So I'm
but
working on
Since
that.
it's not something that we currently, so we have the one program in place, but you guys are talking about creating an entire new program, so
We're just looking
we have
into
to
it.
come up with what
Something,
that
okay.
program looks like before council is going to review
Right.
it.
Is that it for old business?
That's all I got.
Any commissioner comments?
I can
Just
share
don't
that it's-
start in with it, Ed. And without that, do those count for your staff comments too?
Yeah, that's all I got. I got nothing. So the only other thing would be, next regular scheduled meeting is July 6th. And then we do have a special meeting, on the 12th.
Yes.
Which I am
Those
not
during the
gonna be
week
able
is
to.
really hard for me to attend, so.
No.
That's fine.
June 12th.
I'm
Yeah.
covering for somebody on
Besides
vacation.
Thursdays.
2?
Time of that meeting is at 10, right?
No, it's at 2.
Two.
It's Monday
It's
the
a
12th.
Monday.
Yeah.
Monday the 12th, 2 p.m. here. And so since both Greg and Ed will not be in attendance, we'll need to, elect a chair just to run that meeting.
Which is, okay,
Right.
so we're Monday, June 12th at 2.
At
and
2.
And then we go, and the plaque thing is at 4, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
it's gonna be a hopping day.
Fun.
There's a plaque thing?
Yeah, so Gary Bush is doing a little talk about the plaques at
Okay.
4 o'clock at the library on the 12th.
Okay, cool.
As part of the library's 10-year celebration of being in.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
I don't still want to be here, I'm busy.
I'd like
Is it
to
that
try
day?
to
No, I was just trying to.
get to that, but I don't know.
Run over and see.
So
that's all I have.
Gives me the time.
So with that, then we just need to adjourn, right?
And then we just need a motion to adjourn.
Need a
Already approved
motion-
all the minutes and all that, yep, okay.
Motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Right, all those in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Perfect.
Time for some McDonald's, I'm hungry.
Perfect. Thank
See
you,
you,
ladies.
Lisa.
Okay, so.
See you, Kayla.